Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. I want you to imagine this for a moment. She's sitting across from you. The light catches her eyes just enough for you to see that quiet sparkle, half curiosity, half anticipation. And in that space between the two of you, there's a question, not spoken but felt. You reach out, not hastily, not with the fumbling of someone trying to impress, but with the certainty of a man who understands her in ways she didn't even know she longed for. I'm not talking about the obvious touches, the ones everyone knows and rushes toward. No, I'm talking about the places that awaken memory, that stirs something deep inside her chest, that make her close her eyes, not because she has to, but because the feeling is too delicious to keep them open. The truth is, attraction is not built in the bedroom, it's built in the spaces before. It's in the subtle, lingering moments that tell her you see her, you feel her, you know her. Touch is not just skin to skin, it's emotion to emotion, history to history. And when you find that place, when your presence becomes more than physical, you'll live in her mind long after you've left the room. Today we're going to talk about exactly where that is, and why, once you touch her there, she'll never forget you. You know, so many men think the most unforgettable touch is something grand, dramatic, or overtly sexual. They picture sweeping her into their arms, pressing lips hard against hers, or finding that textbook spot everyone writes about in magazines. But here's the truth most men don't realize. Those gestures may excite her for a moment, but they rarely stay. What truly stays is much more subtle, much more human. When I say touch her here, I'm not just talking about a place on her body. I'm talking about a place in her mind, in her emotions, in her sense of safety and connection. If you can touch her there, you're no longer just a man she dated. You're the man she replays in her head years from now, when she least expects it. And this begins long before your hand ever makes contact with her skin. It starts with the energy you bring into the room. Think about the last time someone made you feel completely seen. Not because they were staring at you, but because their attention was so present, so undivided, you felt like you were the only person in the world. That's the first touch. Eye contact that doesn't rush, silence that isn't awkward, curiosity that doesn't judge. You let her feel your interest without her having to work for it. For a woman, especially after 30, life has already shown her the difference between a man who is merely looking at her and a man who is truly seeing her. She has experienced flattery before. She's been told she's beautiful. But when your presence says, I see the woman you've become, the woman you've fought to be, that is when she leans closer. Not physically at first, but emotionally. And that emotional lean is your first opening. The second layer is your voice. Your words are not just carriers of meaning, they're carriers of emotion. The way you speak to her, not just what you say, can be a form of touch in itself. Slow down. Let your tone drop into a warmer, calmer register. Think less about trying to impress and more about inviting her into a space where she can breathe. Women remember the way you make them feel safe to express themselves. And safety, emotional safety, is one of the most intimate touches you can give. Now, when your presence and your voice have created that unspoken trust, your physical touch will feel entirely different. This is where so many men go wrong. They rush to the body before they've touched the soul. But if you've built this slow, deliberate connection, then even the smallest contact, a hand brushing her hair away from her face, fingertips grazing the inside of her wrist, will feel electric. Let me tell you something fascinating. Research in emotional bonding shows that the body stores touch as memory differently when it is paired with deep emotional context. This means if she already feels understood, respected, and wanted, a simple touch will etch itself far deeper into her memory than the most intense physical act with someone she doesn't fully trust. So, let's talk about one of the most underrated places to touch her, the small of her back. This is not a grab, not a possessive hold. It's a momentary, guiding pressure as you're walking through a doorway together, or as you lean in to whisper something only she can hear. It says, I'm here, I've got you, without taking anything away from her independence. That mix, security without control, is magnetic to a woman who has learned to protect herself. Or consider the inside of her forearm. Why? Because it's unexpected, it's tender. The skin there is thin, sensitive, and intimate in a way that feels personal, not public. A light touch there, when paired with the right eye contact, can create a shiver that has nothing to do with the weather. But remember, the secret is not in the spot itself, it's in the meaning you give it. If you touch her like she's just another woman, she'll file you away as just another man. But if you touch her like this is your way of saying, I see you, and I'm glad you let me close, she will remember it long after the moment passes. And here's the beauty of this approach. When you slow down enough to notice her reactions, to really read her, your touch becomes a conversation. If her body leans in, if her breath deepens, if her eyes soften, you know you're speaking her language without a single word. This is not performance, this is attunement. And attunement is the foundation of unforgettable intimacy. Too often, men believe they must guess what a woman wants, or worse, that there's a universal formula that works on every woman. That's not how memory works. What lingers is not a technique, it's the feeling that you tailored your touch to her in that exact moment, in the exact way she needed. And here's something I've learned from years of working with couples. The touch that changes everything is rarely about lust. It's about recognition. A woman might forget the expensive dinner, the perfect compliment, even the heated kiss, but she will remember the moment your touch told her she didn't have to be anyone else in your presence. This is why presence matters. Without it, touch is just touch. With it, touch becomes a story she tells herself again and again. Once you've understood that unforgettable touch begins with presence, you realize that the body is just one doorway. There are others, quieter and more profound. Many men are so focused on where to touch that they forget how to be before they touch. And the truth is, the most magnetic men are the ones who let their curiosity lead, not their agenda. Touch, when it's unforgettable, is never random, it's deliberate, it's slow, and most importantly, it's tuned to her rhythm, not yours. Think of it like music. A song can be technically perfect, but if it's played without emotion, it's forgettable. But a single note played with soul can move someone to tears. Your touch should be that note. One of the places most overlooked is her hand, not just holding it, but exploring it, noticing the lines, the way her fingers rest, the texture of her skin. Running your thumb gently over the back of her hand while you talk is such a small gesture, but it speaks volumes. It says, I am here with you. I'm not rushing to the next thing. I'm enjoying exactly this. And when a woman feels that you're not in a hurry to get somewhere else, she relaxes into the moment and into you. Here's something that happens when you do this. She starts to mirror your presence. If your touch is calm, she becomes calm. If your movements are intentional, she feels intentional about being with you. You are guiding the emotional tempo without ever having to say, slow down. Now, let's talk about something that goes beyond the physical altogether. Touching her through your attention. This is where you learn to notice the things no one else has taken the time to notice. The way her eyes change color in certain light, the small scar on her arm and the story behind it, the way her voice drops when she talks about something that matters. When you point these things out, not as flattery, but as genuine observation, you are touching a place no other man has reached, her sense of being deeply known. And here's the secret. Once she feels known, the physical touch becomes 10 times more powerful. A hand on her shoulder will feel more intimate than a kiss from someone else. This is the part most men never understand. The emotional and physical touch are not separate, they are intertwined. There is also the art of anticipation. Sometimes you don't touch right away. You let the space between you become charged. A quiet tension that builds because she can sense you could touch her, but you're not rushing it. This is when her body starts to lean into the possibility. It's why a pause before contact can make the eventual touch feel like electricity. And when that moment comes, choose places that feel personal. The curve of her neck, not grabbing, not claiming, but a slow graze with your fingertips while you're close enough for her to feel your breath. Or the way your hand lingers briefly on her knee when you're sitting together, your thumb tracing small, absent circles as if you're more lost in the conversation than in the touch itself. You see, it's often the unperformed touch that stays with her. The one that feels almost accidental, but lands with weight because it's real, not staged. When you make touch an extension of your natural interaction, not a separate, calculated move, it stops feeling like a tactic and starts feeling like intimacy. This is where the emotional layering becomes crucial. A woman over 30 has likely experienced touch that was purely about someone else's desire. But when your touch says, I desire you, but I also respect you, I enjoy you, and I'm fascinated by you, she feels safe enough to let herself be vulnerable. And that vulnerability is where unforgettable connection is born. Another deeply powerful place to touch, her hair. Not in the movie cliché way of sweeping it dramatically, but with genuine care. Tucking it gently behind her ear when it falls forward. Running your fingers slowly through it while you're speaking softly. Hair is personal. It's part of her identity. When you treat it with tenderness, she feels that tenderness toward herself. And don't underestimate the power of touch that leaves a trace. For example, the faint warmth left on her lower back after your hand has moved away, or the soft mark your lips leave on her temple after a kiss there. These aren't grand gestures, but they are moments her body will remember without her even realizing it. Now, here's something important. Unforgettable touch is not about constant contact. It's about contrast. If you are always touching her, it becomes background noise. But if you know when to step back, to let the space between you breathe, your next touch will land with more impact. It's like the silence between notes in music. It's what makes the melody beautiful. The most intimate touches often happen in public in small, hidden ways. A subtle squeeze of her hand under the table, your foot brushing hers during dinner, your fingers lightly tracing along her arm as you stand beside her in a crowded room. These are the moments that say, I'm thinking of you even when I'm talking to someone else. That's the kind of thing she replays later when she's lying in bed, smiling at the memory. And of course, unforgettable touch is not only about where your hand goes, it's about how your eyes follow it. If you glance away while you touch her, it's just a gesture. But if your eyes stay with her, if they're warm and present, your touch becomes a sentence in the story you're telling together. Touching her here, physically, emotionally, mentally, means she never feels like you're trying to take something from her. Instead, she feels like you're giving something, your time, your attention, your sincerity. That's what makes it linger. By now, you may be realizing that this isn't about a map of her body. It's about understanding that her body is a landscape of experiences, memories, and emotions, and you are exploring it like someone who values the journey as much as the destination. By now, you see the truth. Touch is not an isolated act, it's a conversation. And the best conversations are layered. They move from light and playful to deep and meaningful, from a brush of the fingertips to the kind of closeness that makes the air between you hum. When I think about the most unforgettable touches I've heard women describe, they're rarely about grand passion in the middle of the night. They're about the unexpected intimacy in the middle of an ordinary day. Like the man who reached across a cafe table not to take her hand, but to rest his palm lightly over it when she was telling him a story about her childhood. No rush, no agenda, just a steady presence that said, "I'm right here with you." It's moments like these that bypass the mind's filters and go straight into memory. Because here's the thing, our nervous system remembers safety and connection long after our mind has moved on. One place that carries more emotional weight than most men realize is the side of her face. Not cupping it like a movie scene, but letting your fingers trace along her jawline, your thumb brushing gently near her ear. That's not just a touch, it's an acknowledgement. It's you saying, "I see you, and I like what I see," without a single word. And because it's so exposed, so unguarded, it can make her heart skip in a way even she doesn't expect. Another, the pause before a kiss. Most men rush through it, as though they're afraid the moment will vanish. But if you linger there, close enough for her to feel the warmth of your breath, far enough that she can still choose to close the distance, you've created a space of anticipation that can be more intoxicating than the kiss itself. The space before is a touch all its own. Then there's the power of the back of the neck. It's one of the most vulnerable areas of the body, because you can't see who's there. You have to trust. When you let your hand rest there gently, not gripping but holding, you are saying, "You can trust me to be this close." That's a kind of intimacy that stays, because it's rare to find someone who can touch us in vulnerable places without making us tense. And we can't forget laughter. Yes, laughter can be a form of touch. When you're both laughing, you might lightly nudge her side or place your hand on her knee as you lean forward to share the moment. It's playful, it's light, but it's also connective. In that moment, you're not just sharing space, you're sharing joy, and joy is one of the most potent memory triggers we have. Here's the deeper layer. Unforgettable touch is not about control, it's about co-creation. You are not doing something to her, you are sharing a moment with her. She's part of it. She responds, she leans in, she meets you halfway. That's why the most magnetic men listen with their whole body. They notice the subtle shifts in her breathing, the way her shoulders drop when she relaxes, the way her eyes search for yours when she wants reassurance. If you ignore these signals, your touch risks being just another gesture. But when you respond to them, when you adjust your touch to match her state, you're telling her, "I'm paying attention. I'm here, and I'm with you in this exact moment." That's what creates the magic. And when that magic is there, you can touch her in the smallest ways and it will still matter. A single fingertip tracing her palm while you're both waiting in line. A brief brush of your shoulder against hers as you walk side by side. A squeeze of her hand when you're sharing a private thought in a crowded room. Now, some men hear this and think, but isn't that too subtle? Won't she miss it? No, she won't, because women are deeply attuned to emotional context. She may not consciously dissect every touch, but she will feel the difference between a touch that is there to take and a touch that is there to connect. And it's the latter she'll remember. When you become the man whose touch is tied to presence, attunement, and meaning, you become the man she associates with a rare kind of intimacy. You're not just another chapter in her life, you're a bookmark she keeps returning to. There's also the truth that touch is amplified when it's layered with words. A quiet, "I'm so glad you're here," while your hand rests on her back. A soft, "You look beautiful today," as you tuck that strand of hair behind her ear. Words alone can fade, touch alone can fade, but when you combine them in a moment that feels true, that's when they last. And remember, touch doesn't have to be constant to be unforgettable. Sometimes the most powerful memory is the one she's left wanting to relive. Leaving a pause, a gap, a moment of absence gives her space to remember and desire that connection again. It's the art of leaving an echo. So when I say, touch her here, I'm not giving you a map to her body. I'm giving you a way to become part of her story. A story she tells herself in the quiet moments, maybe years later, when someone else touches her and she realizes it's not the same. When you think about signature touches, most people imagine something bold and instantly recognizable. But the truth is, the kind of touch she never forgets is rarely the one you show off to the world. It's the one that belongs only to the two of you. The one that would feel strange, even meaningless, if anyone else tried it. That's what makes it yours. Every unforgettable touch has two ingredients: repetition and uniqueness. Repetition allows her body to recognize it, to anticipate it, to crave it. Uniqueness makes it impossible for her to confuse it with anyone else's. And together, they form an imprint, a kind of emotional fingerprint that stays with her long after you're gone. Think about the way you greet her. Most men default to the same quick hug or kiss. But what if every time you greeted her, your hand lingered just a second longer at the back of her arm? What if your cheek brushed hers in a way that was half embrace, half whisper? Over time, her body would learn to associate that small, repeated gesture with the warmth of your presence. And even if she doesn't consciously notice, her nervous system will. That's where memory lives, not only in the mind but in the body. Another way to create a signature is through rhythm. If every man she's been with moves quickly, your choice to slow down becomes a contrast she feels. Maybe when you hold her hand, you trace 3 slow circles with your thumb before letting go. It's such a tiny thing, but repetition turns it into your thing. Months from now, she could be sitting in a meeting, feel her own thumb move in that same rhythm without thinking, and instantly think of you. The most powerful touches are also layered with moments. If your touch is always linked to a feeling, like safety, laughter, excitement, her mind will store them together. This is why a man who only touches when he wants something leaves no lasting imprint, while a man who touches when she's laughing, when she's telling a story, when she's deep in thought, will stay in her body's memory like a song. And sometimes, the signature is not about where you touch, but how you leave. Imagine this: you're saying goodbye after an evening together. Instead of a quick kiss and a wave, you place your hand gently at the base of her neck, pull her close and let the moment stretch. You step away slowly, your fingers trailing lightly until they finally let go. That lingering departure becomes a ritual, one she'll notice if it's ever missing. There's also the beauty of unexpected timing. We expect touch in moments of intimacy, but the signature comes when it's woven into everyday life. Reaching across in the car at a red light just to rest your hand on her thigh. Brushing the inside of her wrist while passing her something at dinner. Standing behind her in the kitchen, your hands finding her hips as you lean in to smell her hair. These are the moments that sneak past her guard, that tell her, you're not just someone I'm with in certain moments. You're someone I want to connect with all the time. Here's something women tell me again and again: the touches they remember most are the ones that feel like the man was fully there. Not thinking ahead, not distracted, not rehearsing. If you can give her that, you're full, unbroken attention in the exact second your hand meets her skin. You've given her something rare. Most people are half present. Your signature is being whole. Now, you might wonder, can touch really stay with someone for years? Absolutely. The body remembers in ways the mind cannot control. We call this embodied memory. A woman might not recall the exact words you said in a moment, but she will remember the warmth in her chest, the light pressure on her back, the way your presence felt like an anchor. That's why years later, she might find herself smiling for no reason when a certain kind of touch or scent brings you back to her mind. To make your touch unforgettable, you also have to understand restraint. If you give her the same gesture every time, it becomes predictable. But if you sometimes withhold it, if you let her feel its absence, then when you do it again, it will feel even more precious. Like a favorite song you don't play too often, so it always feels fresh. Here's an example: if your signature is brushing your hand through her hair when you're close, try skipping it once. She might not even notice at first, but later she'll feel the quiet longing for it. The next time you do it, she'll lean into it more deeply, because her body remembers missing it. Your signature can also be created through pairing. Combine a physical touch with something sensory, a certain cologne, the sound of your low laugh, the feeling of your breath near her ear. When her senses are layered, the memory is stronger. It's why a song can suddenly make you remember a person you haven't seen in years. But the most unforgettable signature is the one that feels like it belongs to the relationship itself. Not just you as a man, but you and her together. Something that would be meaningless with anyone else. Maybe it's the way you slide your hand into hers upside down when you're walking. Maybe it's a soft squeeze at the back of her knee when you're both laughing in public. Whatever it is, it's intimate because it's shared history. And here's the beauty: you don't need her to acknowledge it out loud. You don't need her to say, "I love when you do that." In fact, sometimes the most powerful signatures are the ones that live quietly without being named until one day she realizes she's been waiting for it. That's when you know it's unforgettable, when it has woven itself into her without effort. In the end, the signature is not a trick. It's not a seduction hack. It's a language, one she can only speak with you. And when she feels that, she will carry it with her, even if life takes her far away from you. We've talked about presence, about rhythm, about the ways your touch can become a signature, something that lives in her skin long after you've gone. But here's the truth most men don't hear enough. Unforgettable touch is not about magic hands or perfect timing. It's about who you are when you touch her. Because the truth is, your touch can only be as deep as your intention. If your intention is just to impress her, she'll feel the performance. If it's just to get something from her, she'll feel the transaction. But if your intention is to connect, to offer a moment that tells her, "I see you, I value you, I want to be here with you, not anywhere else," that's when it becomes something she can't forget. I want you to picture this. It's years from now. Maybe you're still together, maybe you're not. She's going about her life, working, cooking, walking somewhere on a quiet evening, and suddenly, something triggers a memory. It might be a song, a smell, a certain light in the room. And in that moment, she feels it, that small graze of your hand on her lower back. The way your thumb traced her wrist when you were lost in conversation. That pause before a kiss where the world seemed to hold its breath. This is what it means to live in her memory, to become a part of her story without even trying to hold on to her. And it's not because you knew the perfect place to touch. It's because you touched her as a whole person, not just a body, not just a collection of spots to be discovered, but as a woman with history, emotions, dreams, and fears. When you treat her like that, you create safety. And when there is safety, she can open. When she opens, the smallest touch can feel monumental. So many men believe that the power of touch is in intensity. They think it has to be overwhelming, breath-stealing, dramatic. But most unforgettable touches aren't loud. They're quiet. They happen in the in-between moments, the pauses, the spaces where your touch says more than words ever could. And this is where your emotional maturity comes in. To touch her in a way she'll never forget, you must be able to slow down enough to read her, to know when she needs closeness and when she needs space, when to make her laugh with a playful tap, and when to let silence fill the room as you hold her without moving. The men who master this aren't the ones with the most charm or the best lines. They're the ones who can attune. They know that every woman is different, and every moment is unique. They never assume they know her entirely. They keep learning her even after years together, and that's another secret. Unforgettable touch is not static. It evolves with her. The way you touched her when you first met is not the way you'll touch her after months, years, decades. As her life changes, as she changes, your touch adapts. This adaptability tells her something powerful, that you're not just here for who she was, you're here for who she's becoming. This is why the man who can truly touch her here, in body, in mind, in heart, becomes irreplaceable, because she knows that what you're offering isn't something she can just go and find again tomorrow. It's not a trick, it's not a script, it's not a move. It's a reflection of the connection you've built together. And in the end, that's what we're all searching for, isn't it? Not just passion, not just excitement, but recognition. We want someone who reaches for us in a way that makes us feel like we matter, like our existence has weight in their life, like their touch is not just about them, but about us. When you give her that, you don't just stay in her memory, you stay in her body's memory, and the body doesn't forget. So the next time you're with her, don't think, where should I touch to make her remember me? Instead, think, how can I be so present in this moment that whatever touch happens will carry the weight of my full attention? Because in the end, that's the real secret. The most unforgettable place to touch her is not a spot you can find on a diagram. It's the place where her guard drops and she feels safe enough to let you in. That place is unique to her. And finding it is not about skill, it's about listening. And if you listen long enough, if you notice the way she responds, the way her body and eyes speak before her words do, you'll know when you've found it. You'll know, because she won't just remember that you touched her there. She'll remember the way she felt in that moment. And that, my friends, is something no one can take away from you. So go out there and touch her, not just with your hands, but with your presence, your patience, and your intention. Touch her in a way that says, this is who I am with you, and no one else gets this version of me. That is the kind of touch she'll never forget.